Oi, Rafaela. Just waiting a bit so people can join us. I'm sorry for the delay. We had technical problems. Okay, I think I'll begin. Can you hear me, Rafaela? Hello. Okay, thank you. Hi, folks. Welcome to Art History, the Female Perspective by Inedal. Today, I'm presenting Tarsila do Amaral. She's a great Brazilian artist. We'll have a lot of fun learning a bit about her and her amazing trajectory. Tarsila is a very important Brazilian artist. She created a movement and she was very ahead of her time. This is Tarsila's self portrait. Think I'm having a bit of a delay. Okay. This is Tarsila's self portrait. She painted it in 1924 while she was in her anthropophagic uh, phase. We're going to take a bit of a look at that. I'm sorry, this is my first live, so I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, let's go. So Tarsila was born in 1886 in the interior of the state of São Paulo in Brazil. She was from a wealthy family and they were landowners, and she spent her childhood on her father's coffee farms. It wasn't very common at the time for a woman to study, but her family supported her desire to do so. She wanted to study arts. She studied in São Paulo and later in Barcelona, in Spain. And was there that she made her first painting. I'm trying to see if you okay. Now it's appearing. This was her first painting, based on a copy called Sacred Heart of Jesus. She made that in 1904. She used to do a lot of copies from the paintings that were at her school at the time, and this was her very first. Very good actually for her first painting. Who knows Tarsila thinks it's a very weird to see that very realistic painting when you know her style, her most known style. In 1906, when she returned from Barcelona, she got married and she had her only daughter, Dulce. Unfortunately, her marriage didn't last long because her husband was a conservative man and didn't approve her artistic development. In his vision, women should only take care of domestic affairs, take care of the children, and take care of the house. It wasn't fit for a doctor's wife to keep studying and going to the street, not the streets, to school to study and meet other people and develop her art. He didn't think that she this was appropriate for a well uh, for a woman with resources. She had money. So Tarsila, as soon as her kid was born, she left her husband and went back to her parents' farm, where she got back to her studies in arts. Like she didn't like not even a little bit that her husband was trying to tell her what she had to do. So she took her kid and went back to her parents like, I don't need that. I have money. And she went back to her studies in art. So Drusilla began to learn painting in 1917 with a teacher. His name was Pedro Alexandrino Borges. And later she studied with a German teacher called George Fischer Albans. They were very respected artists, but very traditionalist. So it wasn't yet that she developed her well-known style. Just a sec, this slide's misbehaving. Okay. And here we have in 1920, she traveled to Paris and attended the Julian Academy. There she drew intensely a lot of nudes and live models. She also studied with Emily at the Emile Renard Academy. Like I said before, all those were very respected teachers, but very conservative. So to me, her paintings in this phase, like this that we are seeing now, this girl with this very light colors, and it reminds me a lot of the French impressionists like Renoir and Monet. If you know a bit about impressionism, you see that they have these brush strokes that are very diluted, very soft, and sometimes they have actually uh, very strong strokes, but this one is more like a Renoir style, very soft and too much light and very delicate, very different from what she did before. This painting actually was accepted at the Salon officiel des artistes français. It was a very respected salon in France. Uh, so Drusilla, after that, Drusilla adhered to the modernist ideas when she returned to Brazil in 1922. In São Paulo, she was presented by Anita Malfatti, a famous artist from the modernist movement also in Brazil, to Oswald de Andrade, this one on the portrait, Mario de Andrade, and Menotti del Pica. All these were artists and writers at that time were developing the modernist style in Brazil. This new friend started to frequent her atelier, and this group had just before her return to Brazil organized the famous Modern Art Week of 22 in Brazil that started the Brazilian modernist movement. All of them together form Grupo dos Cinco, dedicated to Brazilian culture and all that was indigenous to the country, like indigenous people, arts with graphisms, and everything that talked more about Brazilian culture and very tropical style, bright colors, and everything that people considered like Brazilian at the time. A little bit of a cliche, but yeah, that was what people mostly understood as Brazilian. Thank you, Rafaela. um, so yeah, in January 23, in Europe, Tarsila joined Oswald de Andrade, and the couple traveled through Portugal and Spain. They were friends before, but they started dating and traveling all over Europe together and studying a lot about this new movements of arts that were being born in Europe, and they wanted to bring that to Brazil also. This because Brazil didn't have public museums at the time, so to know more about what was happening in Europe, people had to travel and go there and check what the folks were doing at the time. And then they traveled to Portugal and Spain. And there, back in Paris, Tarsila studied with Cubist artists. She joined an academy, met Pablo Picasso, and became a friend of the painter Fernand Léger, visiting the academy of this master of Cubism. Here in this painting, actually, you can see a little bit of an influence of the Cubism already. And well, not that strong, but a little bit of an influence. She studied there with Leger, visited their academy, and principally Tarsila preserved this smooth technique of painting and a little influence of the Legerian style with these colors, very strong colors, very geometric, very all very meticulously. This word is terrible. Built, and yeah, she's very powerful in this painting actually. So while in Paris, she painted one of her most famous works. This is called A Negra. Translating would be the Black Woman. She painted it in 1923. The principal subject matter of the painting is this large woman that she painted inspired by the people that work at the farm. Uh, Slavery was just finishing in Brazil. It took a good time for us to get rid of this piece of our history. It was still common for people to have enslaved people, or the people that were freed, they still remained at the farms because they didn't have other places to go. So it was very common for people to still have people working at their houses, at their farms that were already free, but didn't have other places to go. And it was very common to have nurture some kind of uh, feeling of how would I say that? Yeah, they cared about the people because they were her they took care of her when she was a kid, so she had feelings of affection towards these women. Um, so this was a very well known painting of Tarsila. Leger adored this painting because you can see a bit of this cubist style on it. It's all very geometric. The colors are very strong, very cut. That's strong cuts on the back of the painting. You can see that she's a little bit distorted, what's very common in the cubism, and she has all these proportions that are out of place because in realism nobody would paint a person like that with giant feet, all very geometric and on top of each other, and this large mouth. Everything is very, yeah. Well, some people would say grotesque, but I don't think that's grotesque. I just think that her style. Hi, Gemini Rising, welcome. Hi, Laluka. Rafaela, I already talked to her, but yay. I'm so glad that you're all here. But continuing. This was a very famous piece of Tarsila, and she stylized this figure and flattened everything in the space. She filled the background with a bunch of geometric forms, very inspired by the cubist style that she had known in Europe at the time that she went there with Osvaldo Andrade, her boyfriend at the time. She was very excited about this newly developed style, and she was feeling ever more nationalistic, and she wrote to her family in April of 23. I feel ever more Brazilian. I want to be the painter of my country. How grateful I am for having spent all my childhood on the farms. The memory of these times have become precious to me. I want in art to be the little girl from São Bernardo playing with straw dolls like in the last picture I'm working on. Don't think that this tendency is viewed negatively here. On the contrary, what they want here is that each one brings the contribution of their own country. This explains the success of the Russian ballet, Japanese graphics, and black music. Paris had had enough of Parisian art. And then now we're going to see a little bit of her first, most different period of the things that she was doing before, very traditional. And this painting of A Negra started all that. Now we're going to see a little bit of her Pau Brasil period from 24 to 28. Pau Brasil is a wood that the Portuguese took a bunch of it to Europe to sell because it was used to dye fabrics. Has a very rich red, and it was very appreciated by the European at the time. It was expensive, and they took a bunch of it from our country. But it's okay. Well, it's not okay, but yeah, it happened. One of the things that happened during the colonialism. So here we start with this painting called Morro da Favela. A favela is a place in where you have a bunch of constructions on top of each other, and people who are poor usually live there. At this time, the favelas, well, still today, were mostly inhabited by black people that had to leave the places they worked before, the enslaved people that were free now. They had to go elsewhere, and it was cheaper to live in the skirts of the towns, of the cities, and they started to build everything on top of each other. So to take uh, to use the space better for a bunch of people to be in the same place. And here we have this painting. that you can see that is all very geometric, like the cubism still are very influenced by it. And you can see a traditional scene from the favelas, the kids playing, the dogs, the animals. You have, what is that? It's like a duck. I don't know very much. What is this figure here, this thing here? I don't know if you see it. I don't understand if it's a goose or something, but yeah, you have the people that work walking in the streets, all these tiny houses on top of each other, very intricate, and everything looks a lot like the style of the cubists with these colors and very geometric shapes. So in 24, after she took a trip to Rio during the carnival and to the historic cities of Minas Gerais, she was trying to show the place to the poet Blaise Sendra. Tarsila said that she discovered in Minas the colors she liked when she was a child, in the childhood, the country interior colors that people mostly use in the farms and everything that they created to decorate their places. Her painting masters said that she shouldn't use them because these colors were like cheap and they weren't uh, tasteful. But after this trip, she returned with a lot of personality and started to use what she already loved when she was a child, what she identified as something very Brazilian. These colors and shapes and everything very bright and lively and happy. Even though when people are passing through difficulties, everything is very festive. And she started to use them and also show this rural and urban Brazil in her canvases. Here's an urban scene from the favelas. Oh, sorry, I went back. Here we have one of her most iconic paintings, not the most, but one of the most iconic paintings. You see the colors, they are very, very bright. They have this childish appeal with the very simple shapes and the animals. Everything is very meticulously put there. They're very geometric, and you feel that this childish appeal that she said that she was trying to rescue the colors and shapes from her childhood. Also, we can see that the influence of the Cubist style. So she always wanted to be the painter of her country. And in addition to the colors and the theme, Tarsila used the Cubist technique that she learned in Paris from Leger and Picasso. And from this trip, this work became known as Pau Brasil. That's something very Brazilian, very trying to rescue a Brazilian. Uh, how would I say that? Yeah, a very Brazilian type of painting, something that could represent us in the whole world. She wanted to export Brazil to the world. Now we have one of her most iconic periods, that is the Anthropophagic period, or Anthropophagia in Portuguese. Oh, I think you aren't seeing what I'm putting because I think it didn't update the painting that I was showing before. I'm sorry. It was this. I was talking about the childish appeal. It was in this painting. Yeah, it wasn't. For some reason, it didn't uh, update it. Weird. Well, I was talking about this painting that had this childlike vibe with this very strong colors and simple shapes and the creatures, the animals, everything very in a peculiar way. It is a very famous piece of her. It's called Kuka, and you have this scene with the animals, and everything looks very influenced by the Cubist style. It's from the Pau Brazil period. I actually like it very much. And now to start with the Anthropophagic period from 28 to 30. And now we are going to see what the most famous work from Tarsila do Amaral. This is called Abba Puru. If you know Tarsila, you know this painting. The Anthropophagia period began with this painting called Abba Puru. That's a word that comes from the indigenous Brazilian language Tupi. That means the man who eats people, like a cannibal. Tarsila do Amaral painted it as a birthday to the writer Oswald de Andrade, who was her husband at the time, for as a gift. Soon after, Oswald wrote the Anthropophagic Manifesto, which was calling Brazilians to devour the European styles and rid themselves of the direct influences, to eat devour these European styles, and kind of regurgitate in with with another identity, a more Brazilian identity, like eat it and spit it out in a different way, with your own material, with your own identity, and create their own style and culture. And at this time, the colonialism played a role in her work. Tarsila incorporated this concept into her art. Yeah, Luca. And so instead of being devoured by Europe, they would devour Europe themselves. Like, we are going to take this cubism, this modernism, we're going to eat it like a cannibal eats another man, and then we will make our own thing, getting these modern styles and building it in a Brazilian way. So Andrade used Abba Puru for the cover of his manifesto as a representation of his ideals. That was this, building a more nationalistic art that was going to, instead of bringing European concepts to Brazil, export Brazil to the world. Like, this is Brazil, this is Brazilian, is this represents us, this is our culture, this is what we want the world to see. So in Abba Puru, we will have this giant creature that some people say is grotesque. I love it, but yeah, it's kind of grotesque because it has its giant feet, and also has some influence. Now I forgot the name of the painter that made that. He had this figure that had this giant feet on the painting. At this time, also, she was starting to know the surrealists, and this also has some influence on that. And you have on this painting the cactus and this lemon sun, that they call it the lemon sun. And the colors also nothing more Brazilian than green, yellow, and blue. Is actually our colors, the colors of our flag. So it's a painting that really wants to portray this Brazilian spirit and the spirit of the anthropophagy. Actually, Tarsila didn't invent the name of this painting. It was her husband and a friend that saw it and thought about it and started to develop this concept of anthropophagia, and exactly this idea of eating Europe and doing something else. So here we have the egg is a painting that we also can see it's still there those traces of cubism, but in a very surrealistic way. You can see the touches of surrealism because Tarsila used to go to several trips to Europe and know a lot of people and to update her work and know people and see what's being created that's new and bring back to Brazil and do her own thing. So this painting to me seems very surrealistic. This is from 1928. Here we have Alua or the moon, and at this picture we have this scenery of the moon, and this painting is at the MoMA, if I'm not mistaken. And we have this kind of bucolic scene of the moon setting down and the valley, and there's this river in a semicircle below, and you have this cactus that almost you kind of identify with him as it were a person looking at the moon uh, going down beyond behind the valley. It's very bucolic. Also the style very cubist with a surrealistic touch. And here we have Anthropophagia, that's very much inspired by Abba Puru plus A Negra. It kind of mixes them both. And this painting almost closed the Anthropophagic period of Tarsila, because after that, after with this painting, Tarsila had her first solo exhibition in Brazil at the Palace Hotel in Rio de Janeiro, and she was followed by she did another one in the Salon Gloria in São Paulo. And in 1930, she was featured in exhibitions in New York and Paris. And unfortunately, in the 30s also, Tarsila's marriage ended because Oswald betrayed her with another very important Brazilian artist called Pagu. She was 18 at the time. Nasty Oswald. So yeah, this put an end to their collaboration because they were creating this anthropophagic movement together. But yeah, he betrayed her, so she didn't want to. She didn't take it well because Drusilla was very strong. She didn't accept a man telling her that she should do this or that, or betraying her and she saying, "Oh, it's okay, let's get married." She That wasn't her way. She did it. She did everything in her way. Brave woman. So this was the end of the anthropophagic movement. And this painting also, you can see it's exactly this, almost the same way as the La Negra, with the breast out, and you have this banana leaves at the back. All the colors being a reference to the Brazilian flag, the blue, yellow, green, and these gigantic figures. So now going to her next period of art. This time, Tarsila started painting social social painting. This painting is very famous. It's called The Workers, or in Brazilian, Operários. This is in 33. And in 31, Tarsila started traveling to the Soviet Union. And while she was there, she had exhibitions of her works in Moscow at the Museum of Occidental Art. And she traveled to various other cities and museums. But when she was there, she was very impressed and impacted by the poverty and the plight of the Russian people. And this took a great effect on her. And she painted this to represent the workers at the factories. And she also was referring to the Brazilian people because the the fabrics were also um, oh my god, what's the name for that? The industrialization started in Brazil also. So yeah, we had a lot of these workers, and people who were very poor didn't fit well, and it was a mass of workers that were every day working like 15 hours a day, and there was no rights to the workers yet. So she was very impressed by it. Yes, industrial revolution. Thank you, Krista. And she was very impacted by it. So she started painting this social. It was the first of the kind. The paintings that were impacted by the social aspect of the industrialization and poverty. She had already painted the favelas and such, but this was stronger because she when she was in Russia, she had contact also with the communist ideals. So when she returned to Brazil in 32, she became involved with the São Paulo constitutional revolt against the dictatorship in Brazil, led by Getúlio Vargas, and along with others that were seen as leftists, she was imprisoned for a month because she was traveling to Russia and she was dating a guy that was from the Communist Party in Brazil. So she went to some meetings, and then they decided she was a communist and a communist sympathizer, and she was arrested for a month. After that, she started to paint a lot of social influenced uh, paintings. She done a lot of that. And then from the 30s to the 60s to the 50s, she went through a lot of different styles. She mixed a bunch of what she had already done, but then she started doing something different, like this painting. She kept making paintings with a social theme, but also some very distinct works, like these ones that I'll show now, because the other ones are very much like the other periods of art that she went through, but this is very different. As you can see, it reminds us of the bodies from the Anthropophagic period, and it has the cactus, but everything is very different. You see the strokes, the brush strokes, the colors, everything has a very dreamy atmosphere, and they have these giant bodies, but they are distended in the space, like an infinite space, and you have this dreamlike atmosphere. And despite there were what, like I think four of these kind of works that she made, but they're so distinct that they consider it a distinct phase because it has a completely different style, even though it refers, well, very much to the anthropophagic paintings. Here we have this one that is called Earth, or, or Terra in Portuguese, from 43. And you see the giant limbs, but they're different from the other ones. They're laid down and almost vanishing into the landscape, because there's this part that's very close to us, that's giant, and it just vanishes almost in the landscape. Here we have Primavera, or spring. There are two figures. This is from 46. Also very different from the other stuff, but the same style that the one before. And here we have beach. And we have these figures at the beach, laid down on the sand, and some tiny boats far away. All very dreamy, very almost bucolic. Very is a different vibe from what she usually does. The colors are completely different, all very much, a lot of blues, and it kind of reminds me of the impressionist palettes of some people like Monet or Renoir also, but I don't think that's a direct influence. Not sure, but And now, from the 50s ahead, they called this period Neo Pau Brasil, referring to her first period. And this is a feira or the fair, not the fair. How do you call this? That we sell fruits on the street. Is a fair? No, I forgot. And for the remainder of her career, she focused on social themes. Yeah, market, street market, where the people sell fruits and plants, and uh, they have tiny stands just to sell to people. Here in Brazil, we have it all the time, every week. Yeah, outdoor market or street market. Thank you, Krista. So for the remainder of her career, she focused on the social themes and landscapes. She also began writing a weekly arts and culture column for Diário de São Paulo, which is a newspaper in Brazil, which continued until 1952. In 38, Tarsila finally settled permanently in São Paulo, where she was born, and she spent the remainder of her career painting Brazilian people and landscapes, mostly. In the 50s, she had an exhibition of them at the MoMA, actually not the MoMA, I'm sorry, the Museum of Modern Art in São Paulo, where a reviewer called her the most Brazilian of painters here, who represents the sun, birds, and youthful spirits of our developing country, as simple as the elements of our land and nature. And here we have, yeah, sorry, Fotografia or photography, also representing the people from Brazil. You have kids, a bunch of people, and also representing the Brazilian folks. She has this naive way of represent things. Some people call her a naive painter, and she did the things in this kind of style till the end of her life. And she died in São Paulo in 1973. And Tarsila's life was a mark of the Brazilian character and tropical exuberance, this bright colors and style and shapes. She did everything to be the. She wanted to be the painter, most famous painter of her country, and actually she did it. She is one of our most famous painters. And here is Tarsila at the end of her life. This is 69, if I'm not mistaken. And at the back of the photo you can see her painting called The Workers. And that's it. This was Tarsila. I hope you loved it. I love doing that. Tarsila is a great artist, and I'm very happy to be able to present her to you. And I hope I have enriched your day in some way. Do you want to speak anything? Feel free. I'll wait a little bit to see if anyone wants to say anything. Yay! Thank you. You're the best. Beep. I love doing that. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technological hiccups. Did she paint at the end of her life? Yeah, she painted to the end. She kept painting to the end of her life. I think. Well, let me see, because I don't remember the date of the next one, but I remember that she kept painting to the end of mostly to the end of her life. Thanks, Loluca. But I can check here. Let me see. Oh, actually, I closed it. Yeah, I'm trying to find. She, but from what I know, she painted to the end of her life. Tarsila started painting, when she was at school. She was a teenager, and she kept doing that because the different thing at this time, it was that her family supported her desire to study arts, to paint, to go to places and study and know more and bring to Brazil different kinds of influences to do her own thing. And I think that's why she didn't take it well when she got married, and her husband tried to say, "Oh no, you can't go to school and keep painting. You are a proper woman. You have to stay at the house and take care of the kid and be a good wife." Uh, she was from a wealthy family. She had money. She didn't need that, and her family supported her. They created someone that knew that she could go places. So she didn't took well. She just gave birth and took her kid and went back to their parents' house. And then after a few years, she took her kid and started traveling with her. And yeah, Tarsila was a woman of fiber. Great woman. Yay, Tarsila. Of course, being in a family that has money helps a lot. But many women had the money and didn't have the opportunity or the support of the family to do that. So yeah, that's awesome. Good for her. Look at her cute face. And that's it. Go Tarsila. A woman, a strong woman. I'm happy to bring her for you. And that's it. I think I gotta wrap it up because otherwise I'll keep talking forever. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for being here. You made my day better. Bye, girls. And yeah, I'm very happy for your presence here. I hope you had fun. Bye. See you next time.